Orlando Regional, the final event of the Scarlet and Violet block, and I decided to play Zoroark. I ended up making day 2 at this event, and this is going to be my run detailing so. I decided to play Zoroark because it was going to be the final time to play this deck at full power, and I've always loved to say trade. So, trade away.
Finally made it to the room after a 2-hour nothing flight. I took a nap, and Shukri is still in the Uber. We split one on the way here, so he's off to his magical adventures with Mo, and now I'm here in the room and I'm ready to go to sleep. Alright, it is the morning before day 1 and I have 59 cards in my deck, so I gotta go bother some vendors to find a pal pad or find one of my friends that I asked to bring a pal pad. If none of those work, then I guess I'm submitting Gardevoir. Yeah, I'll play a third boss and not submit Gardevoir. That's a good idea.
Alright, and before getting into the run, I just wanted to go over my deck list really quick. I'm pretty sure this is just Nico Albas's 60 from a European event with a 1-card change. He was playing 2 Ends Castle and I played a Gravity Mountain. Now, day 1, Gravity Mountain was actually pretty good for me, considering I hit some matchups that it actually was pretty relevant in. I hit a Charizard round 1, which ended up letting me win the match 2-0 instead of having a potential tie. And then I believe in my round 8 game, I was able to steal a game against a Dragapult player with the Gravity Mountain as well. And I ended up getting like extended donked in game 3, so I ended up losing that round. But having the Gravity Mountain did give me a chance. Unfortunately, in day 2, there was a couple of times where I wish I had the second Ends Castle to be able to retreat, because there were sometimes you would attack with Darmanitan and then it would kind of get stuck in the active, and then you weren't able to have like a great follow-up play. Something like an Air Balloon would have definitely helped me in that aspect. So I think if I had to replay this tournament, I probably would have just played the second Ends Castle and hope that I didn't run into a lot of Charizard. And I didn't run into a lot of Charizard this tournament, but I think the list was still very good for what it was. I did miss the second reversal a couple of times. I had been testing 2 reversal going into the event just to be able to get more consistent attacks with Darmanitan off, but overall I felt the list was pretty good. Another card that I had tested before was the Yveltal to be able to get potential traps with the like Pecharunt Yveltal loop, so that was also an option, but I felt like every card in the deck did its job. And honestly, the list was very good, so shout out to Nico for doing well, so it allowed me to rip this list off of him. So yeah, just going over the list really quick.
Alright, managed to win round 1 of the Orlando Regional. I hit a boneless Charizard. I was able to 2-0 him. Evo TM is pretty good, but Darmanitan killed 2 Charmanders is better, so it's a 1-0 on the day. Alright, so we got to round 2 of Orlando, and I won 2-0 against a Raging Bolt. Not a matchup I wanted to see. I think it's actually pretty unfavorable for Zoroark. They have a lot of ways just one-shotting you. With Tailmask Ogerpon and Raging Bolt. The guy was also playing Water Pond and a pretty heavy package with it. He was playing Crystal Raging Bolt, so it was kind of a mix between Terror Box and Raging Bolt. His deck was sick. I got really lucky game 1. I opened my Watchtower, so he led Fan Rotom. I put into play, and I was like, all right, bro, better have it. And so I wasn't able to do that, and I was able to establish a pretty good board. And yeah, I was just able to win game 1. It's still pretty close because I think the match was pretty bad, but yeah, I was able to win game 1. And then going into game 2, he led the Water Pond and then like attached to it and played a Lily, and then didn't get out to Fan Rotom off of the Lily. So on my turn, I was able to Lily into a Pecharunt and an Energy to be able to to KO the active Water Pond. And then yeah, the game was pretty much over from there. So going into round 3, 2-0, 4-0 on games today. So keep the momentum going. Alright, just got done with round 3 at Orlando. Got pretty lucky this round. I hit a Tord Absol box deck, but unfortunately for my opponent, he prized one of his Ogerpons game 1. So I was able to muscle through one of them with like Badoo plus Black Belt and then the Monkey Dory moving back the damage counters to his side of the board. So I was able to muscle through that, and then I was able to KO an Absol to wrap up the game pretty much, because I had to KO Monkey Dory like in the middle of the game randomly. Because he was definitely struggling to find basics with that deck. Like after you use your trolley, it's kind of hard to find basics because I Watchtowered him turn 2, and yeah, he wasn't able to draw off Kang and build a giant hand, so I was able to walk away with that. And then game 2, same thing. I muscled through one Ogerpon, but he was kind of bricking. He was able to set up one Ogerpon plus double Monkey, but I was able to like just kill the monkeys and then kill the Ogerpon, and then the game was pretty much over. So yeah, 3-0 and 6-0 on the day in game. So we just got to keep up this momentum. Feeling good. A couple more rounds and we'll make it to day 2. So hoping for a good finish with my boy Big Zoroark, my goat. right, coming off round 4 of Orlando, I played another Absol with double Cornerstone. This game I was able to set up pretty well. Game 1, I win the roll and I get a pretty solid setup with a Buddy Poffin plus Attach and Lily. My opponent went first and opened the Precious Trolley, which was pretty tough, but I was able to get like Badoo Black Belt turn 2, which was pretty funny because I was able to hit him for 100 and that set up perfectly for the turn 2 knockout with the Subjugating Chains plus the Binding Mochi. The second Binding Mochi has been absolutely disgusting today. I'm very glad I played that card. And then yeah, game 2, I was able to give a turn 2 Zekrom plus Binding Mochi attack, and yeah, it was just too much pressure for me to keep up with. So yeah, currently 4-0 on the day, 8-0 in games, so hoping to keep that up and, you know, keep it pushing. So I'll keep y'all updated for the next round. Excuse me, sir. All right, it is now after round 5 at the regional here in Orlando. I managed to get the dub. Moving on to 5-0, I hit a Gardevoir this round, which is a very good matchup for my deck, so I was very happy to see that. Game 1, I drew particularly bad, and so I wasn't able to really play the game until it was kind of too late. My opponent taking 4 prize, and I had to mount a little bit of a comeback, and the odds were kind of there, but I hadn't really filtered through my deck a lot because I'd only gotten like 1 Zoroark up the whole game. So that was chalked, and then game 2, my opponent drew pretty bad, so it's kind of like the flip of game 1 where I drew pretty well and he drew pretty bad. So we played a real game, game 3, and then my opponent whiffed a Gardevoir off of an Iono, so I was able to go boss up their Kirlia, KO it, and then they had to evolve into Kirlia, and then I boss killed that Kirlia, and then I Secret Box the Palpad, put those 2 bosses back in the deck, and the game was pretty much over from there. Even though he was able to like reestablish a board, he wasn't able to keep up in the prize race, so I just kind of pulled too far ahead with 4 Zoros in play. So yeah, pretty good matchup. I am now 10-1 on the day in games, so yeah, keep it up. Round 6. Alright, so I forgot to record after the last round, so round 5, that was round 5, yeah, I did lose round 5 to a Dragapult. Game 1, I got turn 1 Badooed, and didn't really see anything after that. I traded like 6 times, never saw a draw supporter, so scooped that one up pretty quick. And then going into game 2, kind of the same thing. I had a weak start, and then on a pretty pivotal swing turn where I needed to draw one of the 3 PP ups in my deck, plus an energy. I like Lily had 2 Zoroarks in play, and if I drew energy PP up, like the game is pretty much over because I'm able to like Darmanitan my opponent's board of Loke, Dreepy, but I ended up whiffing the KO, so my opponent was able to evolve into Dragapult, and they had 2 Lokes on the board, so I got pretty much ran over at that point. And going to this round, I played against a Gardevoir. It's such a good matchup. It's really hard, even though game 1 I won very convincingly. And then going into game 2, it was pretty close. My opponent set up a checkmate board scenario, and basically I had to draw either boss, ends PP up, or energy, and I owned me to 2. I drew counter catcher, and they were taking a 2 prize knockout, and then I fezzed into double PP up, so the game was just over there. So I'm gonna move on to 6-1, so I'm locked for day 2, and I'm just gonna try to improve the record from here. Hopefully I can end today 8-1 and improve into maybe a potential deep cut or deep run this tournament. So I'm gonna keep it up.
I don't have any more footage for the rest of day 1, but the last 2 rounds I ended up hitting a Dragapult and a Frostlass Monkey Dory. So from what I remember, the Dragapult game 1, I think I get Badoo turn 1, and I have just pretty an unplayable hand. So I just scooped that one up pretty quickly. And then game 2, I win pretty convincingly. I think I opened like double Poffin plus double Zoro in hand. So that game was over pretty quickly. And then game 3, I think it came down to me whiffing a retreat. My opponent, I Darmanitan them, and then they bosses ordered up my Darmanitan, and it got stuck for 2 turns. Which is why the Gravity Mountain, if it was a second copy of End's Castle, I probably would have been able to retreat a little bit easier and probably secure this game a little bit faster. But my opponent's able to build a board up because I'm stuck behind this Darmanitan for 2 turns before I'm able to get another meaningful attack down. And so my opponent's able to mount a comeback from there with like a combination of like Iono plus Counter Catcher plus Dusknoir. So I ended up losing that game 3, and I think it was pretty close. I think I could have probably played the end game a little bit better to secure myself a guaranteed victory in that round. So unfortunate to lose to double Dragapult on day 1, considering I think it's a winning matchup for Zoroark, especially the Darmanitan build. But yeah, I just had to move on to the final round, and I hit a Frostlast Monkey Dory, which is an opponent that I've hit before. I think we played at EUIC. My opponent was playing Pidgeot Control, and I was playing Chenpao with Spiritomb, and I had a pretty good line into that deck, so I ended up beating him at that event. And now this event, the Frostless Monkey Dory can be a scary matchup because you can't really commit to putting a lot of Zoroarks in place. You're not able to filter through your deck as fast, but what I found to be a pretty strong strategy was going with the Zorua Scratch plus Binding Mochi to be able to hit my opponent's Badoo for 60 damage, and then the next turn, if you put a Monkey Dory down, if they Badoo into you, you can KO the Badoo with the ping and then hit something else. So you can kind of take like weird 2-prize turn knockouts, which is pretty funny. So I ended up finishing day 1 7-2, pretty solid record, and I'm excited to go into day 2.
All right, so got done with you can tell how empty the room is from how it's the last round of day 1. Or technically it's the first round of day 2 or phase 2, and oh, excuse me. I ended up playing against a Frostlast Monkey Dory. First one of those I hit this weekend. I think the matchup's pretty weird. You kind of have to just attack with like Zorua Mochi, because I found the best way to do it, and just kind of take a couple prizes here and there. And then if your opponent ever whiffs a Bravery Charm onto their Badoo, you can just bench your monkey and then put 3 damage counters over. Game 2 I priced Palpad and Turo, so I was a little bit worried about that, but I was able to preemptively attach to a Pecharunt. And then when my opponent board wiped me and killed 3 of my Zoroarks, I was able to reattach, or not reattach, but I was able to attach another energy to the Pecharunt, because I had a giant hand. My opponent had his hand disrupt to me, and the Pecharunt was able to take a knockout. And there's nothing on my board for my opponent to trap, because I had drawn a PP up. I was peeping up to a End Zorua. And so, because I had that pivot, I could Pecharunt my Zorua to the active retreat and attack with the Pecharunt again. First time I attacked with Pecharunt all weekend, but it ended up winning me the game, so finishing 7-2 on the day, so not too bad.
All right, and I left my camera in the hotel room for day 2, so we're just going to go over the rest of the event. As you can see, day 2 went a little bit awkward, as I kind of did this thing where I would win a game, and then lose a game, and then win a game, and then lose a game. So I ended up finishing top 256 at this event. The last round was a tie. I think if I would have won that, I would have ended up in top 64. My resistance was not great from losing round 1 of day 2, or I guess round 2 of phase 2, because we played round 1 of phase 2 day 1. But I ended up hitting a Joltik box in round 10, which is a pretty unwinnable matchup for Zoroark, especially with like my very slow start game 1. We kind of both don't do anything, but then my opponent top decks a Nest Ball and is able to get the Joltik combo off, and I whiff boss off of a couple of Zoroark trades, so I'm not able to establish a prize lead here in this game, and so I ended up losing that one 2-0, which is a pretty unfortunate matchup. And then round 11, I hit my local Elias, who we ended up actually getting lunch on Sunday after this, which was pretty funny.
All right, how did your side stream game go?
Really bad. I had a 4-0 start, but now I am 4-1. A Grimmsnarl decimated me.
But yeah, we hit, we're playing the Zoroark versus Goldango matchup, which crazy, the first Goldango I've hit the whole event. And this matchup is generally pretty bad. I think I ended up winning game 1 because I Iono him to 1, and he ends up whiffing a knockout onto my Zoroark because he doesn't have any Goldangos in place. I think he needs to get either, I think he actually specifically needed like Lopunny plus boss's order, and he whiffed the Lopunny but drew the boss. So, and I have Pecharunt in my deck still, so I'm able to retreat and get the KO. So, going to game 2, I think he just like runs me over with the Zoroark. I think Zoroark takes like 2 prizes, so I just scoop it up. And then game 3, we get to a pretty awkward board state where my opponent takes a KO turn 1 with the Zoroark. I promote my Darumaka, or sorry, no. My opponent went first, systems board, I go second, I Badoo my opponent, he takes a KO on my Badoo with the Zoroark, and then I promote Darumaka, I attach Reversal Energy, I play Lily, I like trade twice, and whiff the Darmanitan, so I'm like, oh, that's so unfortunate. So my opponent ends up KOing my Darumaka, but because my opponent used, I think, like a boss's order early, to KO my Zorua, like I'm down 3 prizes, but I'm able to chain 2 Darmanitans back to back, and my opponent's not able to boss around them. So then it gets to a point where my opponent has to like concede to take a Zoro or take a knockout on Darmanitan, go to 1 prize, like the second one, and then I'm also at 2, so I just like trade my way into the Binding Mochi plus stuff, and I'm able to win that game. Incredibly close set, and yeah, so I move on from that game into playing an EV box, and this was like probably the most tragic set of the whole weekend. I think game 1, I have a really sick play where I counter catcher up a Flareon that has 270 HP. It has nothing on it, and I hit it for 250 while poisoning my active, and I have a boss's order in my hand. So what I can do on my following turn is I have Monkey Dory down. I can move 2 damage counters to Flareon, KOing it, and then boss's order either my opponent's Leafeon or the Pheasantipede on their bench, KO that and take 4 prizes in 1 turn to win the game. Unfortunately, I own my opponent to 2, and it's Stadium Noctowl. So yeah, they're able to just win the game from there. So that was really unfortunate. And then game 2, I like basically donk my opponent. I think they go like EV pass, and then I like Badoo them, set up my board, and then they scoop. And then game 3, I think I whiffed like the ends Zekrom off of. We both go do our opening turns. I think my opponent gets a KO of Flareon, and then I like bench Fez, play Lily, trade once. I like draw another Zoroark off the trade again, and I whiff the Zekrom or an out to Zekrom, so I'm not able to KO the Flareon in the active, even though my hand is like Petra Run, Binding Mochi. I get the double energy on a Zoroark, so I end up losing because my opponent bosses orders up my Zoroark with the energy. So pretty unfortunate to hit a second grass deck in day 2. My opponent was playing the Leafeon, which is pretty common in EV decks, but yeah, it was just an unfortunate matchup. And then round 13, I hit a Dragapult player, and I think that he had gotten like top 8 at Puerto Rico SP or something. I recognize the name. I lose game 1 to like the classic Badoo into I have nothing on my board. So I scoop that, and I managed to win game 2 and game 3. I think, like, again, I think the matchup is pretty good, even though if the record doesn't like reflect it, I'm 1 and 2 into Dragapult. But I think the round 8 one, I probably should have won. So I'll just chalk that up to either I probably played bad and a little bit of bad luck as well. And then round 14, I hit a Gardevoir, and this was a weird game because game 1, I like play, my opponent has a slow start, but I also have a slow start where I like play Lily twice, and I get no Zoruas except the one in my active. I eventually evolve into Zoroark. I get 2 trades off with it before my opponent gets to a Gardevoir, and I draw no attackers, nothing else. So my opponent like hits into my Zoroark, and then I like scoop because I again can find like nothing. So my opponent led Mew and was able to retreat into the Frillish turn 1 and hit me with the Oceanic Gloom. So I wasn't able to get any items down. And then game 2, I won pretty convincingly. I think I opened like double Poffin Cyrano. So that game is over pretty quick. And then game 3, there's a pretty contentious board situation where my opponent can win with a Diancie, but my play is to go like counter catcher, kill Gardevoir, Iono, and then on the following turn, if my opponent does not have the out to the Diancie, then the game is pretty much over from there, because then on my turn, I'm able to gust up another 2 prizer and win the game. I remember having a really slow start this game. I took 2 prizes with N Zekrom because I had like attach to it. Like we both had slow starts, but my opponent got a Gardevoir before I got a Zoroark in play. So I was able to like take 1 prize knockouts with the Zekrom while my opponent was glooming me, which was pretty funny. So we end up going for the tie. Again, I think the board state is like very contentious, so I don't know if it was right to scoop. I think when we had looked at each other's decks, like my opponent had like 1 Arven, 1 Nest Ball, 1 Ultra Ball in the deck to be able to tutor the Diancie out. But like I'm playing Zoroark, and I had like 3 Zoros in play at the time, so it's like I feel like the chances of me finding my, because I had Pal Padded a boss back, so I had 3 in the deck after I had used 1. So I was like, listen, I have like 15 cards in deck. Like I have draw for turn, 3 trades, and then I take the knockout, and then it goes back into your turn. If you don't find Diancie, then I get to draw. So I'm drawing 14 cards out of like, I think I had no more than like 18 cards in the deck. I had somewhere between like 14 and 18. So I would have drawn almost my entire deck. The chances of me whiffing boss is like insanely low. So I felt like I had a better chance of winning. And I felt like my opponent also had a pretty high chance of whiffing the Diancie, considering they had a lot of cards in the deck still. Like neither of us had really been ripping through our deck until I got to like a later board state of like really getting a bunch of Zoroarks in play. So that ends up being pretty much the final bit of the run. Yep, top 256, got half a box, ended up selling to the vendors for, you know, like some bread for, you know, like snacks and lunch and stuff. So pretty fun event. I would probably still play the Zoroark deck if I had another chance to do so. Had a ton of fun. And yeah, I'm excited to play Zoroark post-rotation as well. I don't think the deck's as strong, but it's definitely still a lot of fun. Thank you guys for watching. If you stick around for the whole time, DEF CON out.